Okay. The Chiefs and the Bills, everybody. Let's talk about that game.
Let's do it.
And how it ended. I'll just shoot everyone straight. I always do. Was Kadarius Toney offsides? I mean,
yeah, clear
that was quite a finish here, because this game is tied at 17, and Kadarius Toney and this Chiefs team had done their up and down offensive thing, and then we see Travis Kelce wide open and makes one of the most incredible heads-up plays that I've seen. Flips it to Kadarius Toney for a go-ahead touchdown. And I was wondering, is this thing planned? Did he see it? Like, what a bag of tricks moment for a Chiefs team that needed it, because this was the moment where Kadarius Toney is going to have redemption. And it's been 14 weeks of redemption since the Kadarius Scissorhands game of week 1 in front of the whole country on NBC. And that started the whole narrative of Mahomes doesn't have the weapons, even though that was the narrative all previous season and they won the Super Bowl in it. And a whole 14 weeks of receivers dropping passes, with receivers running routes at the wrong depth. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is just spend a minute in the all-22 world looking at the Chiefs' route running, and you'll see it. Now, Kelce's not that guy, and also Rashee Rice has been the one receiver that is just like, I'll be there, and I'm not only just be there for you. I'm gonna be there with consistency and get better each week. And he even scored a touchdown yesterday as well. With a beautiful route run in the back of the end zone.
He's been good.
Yeah.
And so here's Toney in the end zone, and they're up 24-17, and a defense that is championship caliber and had shut out essentially Josh Allen in the second half. After the team fell down 14-0, they are going to win this game in Arrowhead. And this is going to be the moment for the Kansas City Chiefs that we'll all look back and say, they got this after all in the AFC. And then Carl Cheffers, the head ref there yesterday, who is a 4-letter word to a lot of Chiefs fans. He was the guy who, if you recall, I believe last year when Chris Jones had one of the most remarkable sack, forced fumble recoveries, was ruled to have roughed Derek Carr because he had the temerity of placing his body weight on top of Derek Carr. And then one of the reasons why he might not have been able to avoid the full body weight from landing on Carr is because he was too busy having one hand with the ball on it.
Right.
And in it.
That was insane.
One of the most remarkable feats that you've seen, athletic feats you've ever seen on a football field, wiped out. And now here comes Cheffers to wipe out one of the most remarkable heads up, wild or planned, exciting moments that the Chiefs have given us out of a whole 6 years of them. Wipes it out with the words you rarely hear, offensive offsides. Wipe it out, and you could see the Chiefs were just reeling from that, and then the Bills defense took it from there, and that's all she wrote. Now then, was Kadarius Toney offsides? 100% he was offsides.
No doubt.
Should they have called it? Well,
I mean, it's a penalty.
Should they have called it? Should they have called it? Should, again, like as Mahomes said afterwards, did it materially affect the play? And that's kind of beside the point. When a foul is a foul. So you could say, was it a penalty? Yes. Should they have called it? Should they have let it go? Certainly when you've seen other things let go. Sure. Did they win the Super Bowl last year with the same conversation surrounding a penalty in the last throws of the game? Yes. It's amazing how we're having this conversation involving the Chiefs again. Because Bradbury, was that a flag? Was that a penalty? Yeah. Should they have called it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, do you overlook it? Because sometimes you can. They didn't. And Bradbury said after the game, I did it.
Yeah, that's true.
And after this game, I mean, Mahomes, I've never seen him this hot.
Man.
I've never seen him lose his mind like the way he lost his mind on the sideline and at the official who threw the flag. He was so furious that one of the most straight up humans you'll meet in the game, in terms of good people, in terms of just being in the moment for someone else. He's one of the kings of being in the moment for someone else. When he saw Josh Allen, with whom I am assuming he has a terrific relationship, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they win? Didn't they win golf outings together?
Yeah, the match, sure, right?
Okay. I mean, he just went up to him and he just said to him, one of the worst calls I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And like, Allen was probably deep down going, all right.
Like, cool, bro.
Okay.
Cool story, bro.
We'll chat later.
Good story.
Like,
Yeah.
He just won one of the. Did he need that win, Josh Allen, in the worst way? Yeah. Like, what's he supposed to say? I hear you. Yeah. No. Let's. What can I do to help? Like, no.
That's a shame.
He was that hot. Like he couldn't. He was so out of his skull angry. And then you want to talk about uncharacteristic. Andy Reid after the game, he's like the king of time's yours and no excuses. He had this to say about that call.
It was a heck of a football game down to the end. Very disappointed that it ended the way it did. And normally I'll get, I never use any of this as excuses, but normally I get a warning before something like that happens in a big game. A bit embarrassing in the National Football League for that to take place.
I mean,
wow. If you put it out one more time again, and then the whole business about not getting a warning, you go back and forth. I hear, that he did ask for heads up, and the official didn't tell him you're offsides. And then Carl Sheffers after the game said he was blocking the football. He's offsides, and to the point as well. Not to just rub any salt on it, because I just love this team and this organization and those who root for it. The right tackle, Jawan Taylor, he's lined up again improperly. Like he's not properly lined up. Like that's an illegal formation to begin with. Like we'll talk about it. Like that offensive line, the way that they are lined up is like the inverse of the arrowhead tip of the spear that they're on top of. Like your line isn't supposed to look like your logo.
Yeah,
He's been doing
that all season.
All season. And that's been part of the problem with this team. The tackles aren't very up to snuff like their usual team, and the receivers aren't either. And
he's been called for this before.
And he's been called for it before. There are, and we'll get to this a little bit more in a second. But I don't blame Mahomes for just being livid. This was Mahomes after the game as well.
It's obviously tough to swallow. Not only for me, but just for football in general. Just to take away greatness like that. For a guy like Travis to make a play like that, and who knows if we win. But as I know, as fans, you want to see the guys on the field decide the game. And that's why last week I didn't say anything about the flag. They didn't get called on the Marquez. And so, they're human, man. They make mistakes. But, it's every week we're talking about something, and all I can do is go out there and give everything I have, and I'm proud of the guys because that's what we did, and it was a great football game that ended – another great football game that just ended like that. It's just tough to swallow.
And then he had this to say about Kelce in particular moments later.
And like I said, man, that's a Hall of Fame tight end making a Hall of Fame play that won't be shown because we threw a flag for an offensive offsides. And so it takes away from not only this game and this season, but from a legendary career that Travis has had. And, I mean, that hurts me because I know how hard he works for it.
All right, so that I'll just – because I always shoot straight here, and I love this guy. God, do I love you, Patrick Mahomes. That makes no sense.
None.
Kelsey's going to the Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, you know, if they show some sort of tribute video, you know, still include the play. I mean, you know, it's still amazing. And,
Yeah.
But here's what I think is happening. And again, I'm not in his head. I don't profess to be in his head. He just sounds instead of, you know, blaming the receivers, he's yelling at the refs. And what he's yelling at the refs is through his receivers. Like, what the hell is going on here? Because he will never do that. He'll never call out his teammates. He will never yell at his teammates in front of anybody. But I think it's just like, I know what you say he should, but he's still the leader of this team. In the same way we had Mike McDaniel on last week, and he said one of the things he's learning as being a head coach is that when he's in his own head and he looks up, somebody walks by the office and waves to him, and he just stares at them, and it's not like he's being rude to the person who waves to him when he's walking by the office. He's just in his own head, and he realizes, like, that person now thinks that he's angry at them. You know what I mean? Like, so body language and words matter. Yeah. And he's now like, you know, I need to be a lot more, you know, personable. Body language and words matter. Can he take these guys aside? Sure. But in the moment, he's got to be sitting here going, this guy again? And this is why the Giants essentially handed them somebody as talented on the field as Kadarius Toney, who they used a first-round pick on. They're like, you take him. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why is, I imagine, stuff like this. He's not on sides. And did the refs call it at the worst possible time against the Chiefs? Yes. Did the Chiefs get a call going their direction last year in the Super Bowl that couldn't have been called if the ref didn't want to, because he could have called it a million other times, or she could have called it a million other times? Yes. Did they win a Super Bowl because of it? No, they still had a great game all around it in the same way that the Bills had a great game around it, in the same way that the Chiefs had a poor game around it too. And I think this is Mahomes being angry about what is happening around him.
I agree with you.
And sounding irrational when something like this happens. I think they broke Mahomes. It broke Mahomes for a split bit. For the season, I doubt it. I don't think so at all. But for the moment, it broke him, and he snapped.
Yeah.
And in a way, I don't blame him. I don't blame him. And one other thing, too, that I think will come out of this is that he's tapping in to the anger that we keep talking about around here, is fans pissed about the officiating this year. And the number of times it keeps cropping up. Now, was this a proper call? Yeah, the guy's off. Like he's
blatant.
Way offside.
So egregious. Yeah.
And Carl Cheffers, after the game, met with a pool reporter, and we have on the screen right here, and saying that, yeah, like, ultimately, if a receiver looks for alignment advice, certainly we're going to give it to him, but ultimately they're responsible for wherever they line up, and certainly no warning is required, especially if they're lined up so far offsides where they're actually blocking our view of the ball. So we would give them some sort of a warning if it was anywhere close, but this particular one is beyond a warning. And so so if you're just barely, that's the part that also makes no sense. Just like, if you're offsides and you're looking for, am I on sides? And the ref's like, you're not. Then, or no, or move back. Then the guy will realign. But only if, like, what? You're now making a judgment as to how offsides you are, how far you are. Like, if the dude asked for advice and you're not going to give it to him because it's terrible.
He's like 2 feet
but that makes no sense. Jeffers' answer made no sense. So now it's like, yeah, we'll give you advice, but not unless you're really offsides. Then you're on your own, which they should be to begin with anyway. It's just, again, another gray area that I'm telling you, Mahomes is tapping in. You remember when Brady tweeted out during a Thursday night football game about how many holding penalties there are, and then poof, holding penalties disappeared. This is going to be the opposite. Mahomes is the face of this league, giving voice to, here we are again. Now, I don't think he's in the right here, but the whole concept of him saying, last week, I didn't say a word when Marquez Valdez-Scantling was wearing a Green Bay Packer cape at the end of the game, and we didn't get a call. And this time around, I'm snapping because enough's enough. I believe, again, the enough's enough is him having enough of his receivers, in large part, letting him down. And the enough's enough, I think fans will take, again, to say, what is happening with officiating this year? Because it feels off and different. And so we'll see how that plays out. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.